The Houston Texans are too loaded to hide behind patience anymore. That part is over. This is not a young team asking for time. This is a roster built to scare the AFC right now, with CJ Stroud leading the offense, Nico Collins giving him a true number one target, and DeMeco Ryans running a team that already knows what January feels like. But here is the twist. The talent is no longer the question. The question is whether Houston can finally break through the wall that keeps stopping this franchise before the biggest stage. That pressure is sitting on every corner of the building. Will Anderson Jr. brings heat off the edge. Derek Stingley Jr. can erase space outside. Danielle Hunter gives the front real finishing power. Azeez Al-Shaair gives the defense its voice in the middle. Then Nick Caserio spent the offseason trying to protect the one player who matters most. Because if CJ Stroud gets a cleaner pocket, the whole AFC problem changes. Houston is not short on names. Houston is short on one more playoff step, and that is why this season feels different before the first snap even arrives. But the part nobody can ignore is the sudden crack in the linebacker room. EJ Speed was supposed to give this defense more range, more depth, more answers. Now his injury forces DeMeco Ryans to adjust before the real fight starts. That makes Marte Mapu more important than anyone expected, and it makes Week 1 against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills feel like a truth test. If Houston wants the league to stop calling them close, the answer starts with the one thing Nick Caserio tried to fix first. The wall around CJ Stroud. The Houston Texans did not need another speech about belief. They needed a cleaner pocket for CJ Stroud. That is why Nick Caserio went straight at the line, because every playoff dream starts dying when the quarterback is backing up before his route tree even opens. Houston added Braden Smith, brought in Wyatt Teller, signed Evan Brown, and then spent a first-round pick on Keelan Rutledge. That is not decoration. That is protection with pressure behind it. The most important name might be Rutledge, because he is not only a future piece. He is being pushed toward the middle of the fight right away. Jake Andrews already knows the system. Evan Brown brings real experience. Febechi Nwaiwu gives the room another young guard with center flexibility. But the center battle is not a small camp story. It is the heartbeat of the offense. The man in that spot sets the front, calls the slide, and helps Stroud know where danger is coming from before the ball moves. Then David Montgomery changes the feel of everything behind them. Houston needed a run game that could punish light boxes, calm long drives, and stop every game from becoming a passing test for Stroud. If the line holds and Montgomery forces defenses to respect the ground game, Nico Collins gets cleaner windows, the tight ends get easier space, and the whole offense breathes again. That is the bet. Houston is not asking Stroud to survive anymore. They are trying to build a wall around him. But the wall only matters if the quarterback behind it answers the playoff question waiting next. Because January pain follows every great roster until somebody finally breaks through, and Houston knows that truth too well. The hardest part about the Houston Texans story is not whether CJ Stroud can play. Everybody knows he can. The real question is colder than that. Can he take this roster into January and finish the job when the field gets smaller? The noise gets louder, and every mistake feels permanent. That is the line Houston has not crossed yet. Not because the talent is missing, but because the final door keeps staying shut. The playoff loss to the New England Patriots left a mark. Stroud threw 4 interceptions, and that kind of night follows a quarterback all offseason. Fair or not, that is how the league works. But it should not turn into panic. Early playoff pain has touched great quarterbacks before they became trusted names in the biggest games. Peyton Manning learned that the hard way. The point is not to compare careers. The point is simple. One ugly January game does not erase the arm, the mind, or the growth. It only raises the price of the next chance. That is why this season feels heavier than normal. DeMeco Ryans has the defense. Nick Caserio rebuilt the protection. Nico Collins gives Stroud a true alpha target. The run game has more punch with David Montgomery. Now the excuse pile is smaller. Houston does not need Stroud to be perfect. They need him to stay calm when the game tilts, protect the ball when pressure hits, and turn one bad playoff memory into fuel. If he does that, the Texans stop being the team people respect from a distance. They become the team nobody wants to see. And the next reason starts with the weapons waiting around him. The most unfair part about this Houston Texans offense is how many answers can show up before the defense finds the first one. Nico Collins is the tone setter, the receiver who can win outside, win through contact, and calm the whole passing game when things get tight. That matters for CJ Stroud because a quarterback trying to erase a January scar does not need noise. He needs trust. He needs a target who turns pressure throws into normal throws. But Houston did not stop with one weapon. Jaden Higgins has the size to bully corners and grow into a bigger role. Jalen Noel gives the room quickness that can stress the middle. Justin Watson brings veteran steadiness. Tank Dell is working back, and if that burst returns, the offense gets a spark few defenses can match. Then comes Lewis Bond, a 6th-round rookie with soft hands and a real path to steal snaps if camp gets loud. Every name does not need to be a star. The danger is the mix. The tight end room adds another layer. Dalton Schultz gives Stroud the safety valve every good offense needs. Foster Moreau brings size and trust near the sticks. Marlon Klein, another rookie, gives the staff a younger piece to shape over time. Now put all of that beside David Montgomery, behind a line Houston rebuilt, and the picture changes. Defenses cannot lean one way anymore. They have to choose, and choosing against Stroud is where problems start. Because if this group stays healthy, the offense finally has enough balance to stop chasing games and start controlling them. And once the offense catches up, the defense becomes even more dangerous. That is when Houston's strongest unit gets room to attack instead of rescue every long drive from behind again. Houston did not treat a great defense like a finished product. That is what should scare people. The Texans already had the kind of unit that can drag teams into bad decisions. Then Nick Caserio still add more bodies to the front. Most teams fix weak spots. Houston strengthened to strength. That is how a defense goes from good to uncomfortable. It starts with Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter, because those two can ruin a drive without needing help. But the real change is inside, where games get dirty fast. Sheldon Rankins stayed in the building. Naquan Jones stayed in the rotation. Logan Hall gives D'Amico Ryans another body who can move across the line. Then Houston brought in Caden McDonald, a massive new tackle from Ohio State, to add weight, power, and early down force. That matters because pressure off the edge becomes meaner when the middle refuses to move. Quarterbacks hate heat in their face. Running backs hate crowded lanes. Houston is trying to give offenses both problems at once. And that is the kind of pressure plan that travels when weather, noise, and playoff tension start messing with clean football. The back end makes the front even harder to deal with. Derek Stingley Jr. gives Houston a true shutdown corner. Kamari Lassiter keeps growing on the other side. Reed Blankenship and Kalen Bullock give the safety room range and trust. Kamari Ramsey adds another young piece who can cover space and fill different jobs. That is the danger of this defense. It is not built around one trick. It can rush, cover, disguise, and rotate. But even loaded defenses can get tested by one injury, and Houston just found that out before the season even began. That next twist changes the whole linebacker conversation in Houston. The most uncomfortable part of a loaded roster is how fast one injury can expose the math. The Houston Texans still have stars everywhere, but EJ Speed going down changes the rhythm of this defense. He was supposed to be the extra layer, the fast body who could cover space, clean up edges, and keep the linebacker group fresh. Now D'Amico Ryans has to adjust before the season even starts. The middle still has power. Azeez Al-Sher is the voice, the tone setter, the player who keeps the front tied to the back end. Henry Tutu brings speed and trust beside him. But the comfort behind them is thinner now, and that matters in a 4-2-5 defense where linebacker snaps are not wasted. Every rep has a purpose. Every mistake opens a lane. Every bad angle can turn a short throw into a long drive. Houston has enough talent to survive this, but survival is not the goal anymore. That is why the depth names suddenly feel much bigger. Wade Wooders was drafted to grow, but his timeline might move faster. Aiden Fisher was supposed to fight for a roster role, but now his path feels more real. Jake Hummel gives the room another experienced option. Jalen Pitre can slide closer to the action when Houston wants extra speed near the line. Still, the name that keeps coming back is Marte Mapu. Before the injury, he looked like a useful piece. Now he might be the hidden answer Nick Caserio already had waiting. And if that gamble works, the injury does not weaken the defense. It turns one quiet April move into a season-changing story that nobody outside Houston respected enough at the right time yet. The quiet move that looked small in April now feels much louder. Marte Mapu came from the New England Patriots in a late picks swap, the kind of deal most fans scroll past without stopping. At the time, it felt like Nick Caserio was adding special teams help and one more flexible body for camp. Useful, sure. Season-changing, no. Then EJ Speed went down, and suddenly that little move started carrying real weight. That is how a depth note turns into a pressure point before kickoff in an AFC chase. What makes Mapu interesting is not one flashy label. It is the way he fits between jobs. He has played linebacker. He has safety traits. He can walk near the box, drop into space, cover ground, and give DeMeco Ryans more freedom without changing the whole call. That matters because Houston does not want to become simple while replacing snaps. If the offense sees the same picture every down, smart quarterbacks will attack it. Mapu helps keep the disguise alive. He lets the Texans stay multiple, stay fast, and stay calm when depth gets tested. This is the kind of roster detail contenders need. Not every answer arrives with a giant contract or a first-round spotlight. Sometimes it is the quiet player who becomes valuable only after the season hits back. Mapu does not need to become a star for this move to matter. He needs to know his job, protect the weak spot, and give Houston another bridge until the linebacker room settles. If he does that, Caserio found insurance before anyone knew the bill was coming. And that leads straight into the biggest test of all, because Week 1 does not offer Houston a soft landing. It brings Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills into town. Week 1 does not give the Houston Texans a warm-up. It gives them Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in their building with the whole AFC watching. That is perfect. If Houston wants people to stop calling them almost ready, they need a game like this early, not later. Not after the story cools. Right away, under pressure, against a quarterback who can test every layer of the defense. This matchup tells you F's offseason really worked. Can the new line keep CJ Stroud clean when the rush gets loud? Can David Montgomery make the run game matter before third down becomes stressful? Can Nico Collins punish single coverage? Can Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, and Derek Stingley Jr. turn a great offense into a slow one? And can DeMeco Ryans manage the linebacker shuffle without EJ Speed being ready? That is the hidden test inside the big test. The schedule does not slow down after that either. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Indianapolis Colts, and Tennessee Titans are waiting inside the division, and Houston also has the kind of late-season stretch that exposes fake contenders fast. Every snap will show whether this roster is built for noise, travel, and tight fourth-quarter football when the crowd gets restless and heavy. But that is why this roster was built this way. Nick Caserio did not stack protection, weapons, pass rush, corners, and depth for a nice story. He did it because this franchise is chasing something it has never touched, an AFC Championship appearance. That is the bar now, not hope, not growth, results. If Stroud answers, if the line holds, if the defense survives the injury storm, the Texans will not look loaded on paper anymore. They will look like the team nobody wants to draw in January.